Good afternoon. Welcome to the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the beautiful but cloudy confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. I hope that you're enjoying this wherever you may be, whether in your commute to work, working out, getting prepared for your day. I nonetheless thank you for joining me today on this beautiful, beautiful afternoon. As I always recommend everyone like, share, and subscribe. I just want to continuously, I probably said it every episode, and I apologize if I continue to say it, but thank you guys so much for the support and the love that has been coming. Every episode has been dope. The feedback has been dope. And as I stated yesterday, we're just going to continue to keep building the content. So I just want to thank you guys. And again, like, share, subscribe. It helps the channel. Well, as we saw last night, there were two NBA games that kind of caught us. One was a good one. The other one was a bit of a blowout. But I want to touch on the Heat and Sixers first. Impressive game. I cannot reiterate to you or state enough how I love watching Eric Spoelstra coach teams. And I low-key, and I must be honest, I have become a fan of watching Nick Nurse coach teams. You know, anybody that gets Toronto a championship, and I understand Kawhi Leonard was there, but this guy had Toronto competing for a number one seed many years ago when Toronto Raptors being a number one seed in the Eastern Conference wasn't even it was never even a thought. You know, they were a bottom basement doormat franchise for, most of my existence, and I'm about to be 36. So it just shows you how it was a testament to his coaching. Having said all that, watching that game last night, Philly was outscored the first two quarters. Now, I know Embiid was, unhealthy, and I know that there was a lot going on. They were trying to get him back into the swing of things, adjustments on offense, defense. I get all that. Biggest deficit was coming in the second quarter, which, again, I kind of thought, my personal opinion, Philly might pull it out. But once I saw that in the beginning of the game, you saw the fans booing, it was just bad. It was just bad. The first half of basketball was the worst Philadelphia could have played to start a game. And I give them so much credit because to bounce back and to persevere and to keep fighting, that, again, a testament to the Sixers, testament to Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, Nick Nurse, Nicholas Batum, who I'll get to in a second. Testament to all those guys and just how hard they fought and how well they played. And it was beautiful to see. Also noticing Miami, I just previously stated a few minutes ago that I love watching Eric Spoelstra-led teams. One thing that perplexes the hell out of me right now, and I'm literally, it's 12:48 in the afternoon, Thursday, April 18th, and I'm still trying to figure this out. How did you wait to the last 55 seconds of the game to start playing the most undisciplined basketball you could possibly play, like in a game, let alone a playing game, a game to keep you in the playoffs? I don't understand. I mean, the foul from Hero was weird. It was, like I said, that 55-second mark. Any of you guys get a chance, or you watched the game, or you saved it, DVR, or anything like that, go fast forward to the fourth quarter, probably 58 seconds to give you a nice window or vignette of what happened. But from the 58 to the 55-second mark, that's when things started to come apart for Miami. I started to feel like maybe that was the most undisciplined, because the game was going tit for tat. It was a back and forth game for, most of the third quarter, most of the game, really. I mean, except for that 13-point lead that Miami had jumped out to for a bit. It was a back and forth game. But Joel Embiid, man, that dude is a fucking beast. I mean, 23 points, 15 rebounds, 2 or 4 from 3. Why in the hell, Miami, are y'all leaving him open like he don't hit that shot? Joel Embiid is one of those rare players where he's so damn dominant that anything he adds to his game at this point is a plus. We've always knocked him for the weight issues. We know last year was the MVP season. We know this year he was battling with injuries. We know if he had been injured, they would have been a lot better record-wise. Probably wouldn't even have to have gone through this whole play-in tournament ordeal. I get it. I completely understand. The thing that throttles me, though, is when you really pay attention to the fact that this dude shoots threes. I mean, again, I'm looking at his percentages now on my computer, and I mean, 9 of 10 free throws. I mean, you're putting him on the line. You're leaving him open for 3-point shots. He's not even healthy, and he gave you 25 and 15. That was just bad defense by Miami. I don't really know what the hell the game plan was. And then to add insult to injury, out of the 15 rebounds, 12 were defensive. So, I mean, they were just, getting killed on the glass. Miami really just, they never really had the size all year long to really compete with big teams. But in that game last night, where you have it thoroughly in control, it should have never gotten to a point where it got that close. Which leads me into my next big player from the game, Nicholas Batum. Batum was huge in this game. I mean, 20 points in 28 minutes, 6 of 10 from 3. That right there, 6 of 10 from 3. And then the most crucial play, everybody's going to remember the 3-point shots that he hit. To me, the play that he was the most impactful on, the play that, in my opinion, won them the game, that has them in the playoffs now, the block that he got on Tyler Hero at the 26-second mark. I mean, great defense. Tyler Hero, I don't care what anybody says. He's one of those guys, especially playoff-wise or late in the season, I'm a little nervous because when he gets that ball, he tends to hit that shot. And it's not that he's necessarily clutch or anything like that. It's just that he's a consistent shooter. And if you give him opportunities, he can hit the difficult shots. He can hit the fallback fadeaways or, the pull-up floaters. He can hit all of those. So it was interesting to see that Batum had switched on to him and then he had got that block. It was crucial. I mean, hell, it was, like I said, it was the most important play of the game. Philadelphia probably doesn't win if he doesn't get that block. Great play. Great play. Great game all around by Nicholas Batum. Maxey played decently. He did what he usually did. 6 of 16 from the court. However, 6 of 6 from free throws. I cannot reiterate to you, to be 6 of 6 shooting free throws, that's the key. The 3 ball and the free throws, that's what helped Philadelphia win this game. Philadelphia got out physical. They were out coached for about 2 quarters. And then Embiid steps up. Maxey starts stepping up some more. Batum steps up. Next thing you know, all hell breaks loose. So, got to give credit to the Sixers on that. Like I said, at one point they were down by 13. And the fact that you just felt like Miami didn't really have the dogs or the height or the muscle to really play the rebounding game with Philadelphia. That's ultimately, like I said, free throws, 3-point shots, rebounding. That's what ultimately cost Miami Heat this game. Though it is not over for Miami, because Miami's opponent, which I'll be getting into next, also is still in this play-in tournament, and that would be the Chicago Bulls. And credit to the Chicago Bulls. Shout out to any Bulls fans out there. Played a hell of a game last night. Dominated the Hawks. I mean, the first 2 quarters were so deceptive in that game. You kind of felt like the first quarter, you're like, oh, it's a game. Okay. DeJounte Murray, boy, been shitting all year. He shows up. You're like, okay, all right. Capella's, he looking like Houston Capella. He's coming in, alley-oop. Okay, all right. Bogdanovich coming off the wing, layups, hitting threes. Everything looked copacetic. Everything looked good, except you couldn't keep hitting threes. 29% from 3. Ain't getting it done. Even having Trae Young back, it ain't getting it done. You cannot beat anybody shooting 29% from 3. It's not happening. And again, it was really a credit to the Bulls defense because the Bulls, they just defended the 3-point line well. They knew you don't really have the size or presence to dominate in the interior, and you don't really have any wing players or a bunch of guys that can create their own shot. So ultimately, if we stop you from shooting threes, case in point, they had shit for them. So got to give the Bulls credit for that. The Bulls really, though, as I was saying, this game ended up being a blowout. The Bulls really pulled away in the second quarter. The second quarter was just, that's where you saw, Kobe White starting to pull away. I want to get the brother's name right for Chicago, African brother, but a lot of them, you started seeing the role players and the guys stepping up. Caruso had a big game. It just got to a point where literally you're watching this and you're like, okay, this is about to be over soon. We're just going to see how long is it going to take because we know that Atlanta doesn't have the horses. They're a small team. And I give Atlanta credit. They fought hard all year. They battled with the Trae Young injury. I think if Trae Young hadn't been injured, record might have been a little bit better. But again, the Hawks, honest to God, truth, guys, even if you go back to the days of Dominique, right? Who was the big man? I mean, Trae Young is, I think I'm probably the same size as Trae Young height-wise. That's not getting it done on the NBA floor. And to add insult to injury, all he can really do is shoot. He can't really do anything else. Like, you know, and I just don't, long term, I don't know how that's going to work out in Atlanta. You know, yeah, it's going to sell tickets. Yeah, it's going to put asses in seats. You know, it's going to get people to watch. But if they're winning 36 games, which, you know, for the record, they won this year 36-46, it's going to get to a point where it's like, this is not really worth the time or energy we're investing. So keep an eye on the Atlanta situation and Trae Young and DeJounte Murray and how they may all play out, because they live and die by the three. And it's just not conducive to winning basketball, especially in today's era. If you shoot too many threes and miss, you're getting blown out. Kobe White has finally emerged. I've been a fan of Kobe White since UNC. I thought Kobe White has always been a very good player. One of those guys that didn't really get enough credit or props. You know, he had the big fluffy hair, so everybody was giving him props for that when he first came out. But, you know, his game slowly but, you know, progressed. Slowly but surely progressed. And I kept giving him props, and I was like, you know, he's going to have one of them breakout games soon. Damn, if it didn't come at a beautiful time. 42 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 of 7 from 3. He had the game of his life. And it was needed. It was needed. Not that he couldn't have scored 25 or 30 and they wouldn't have won, because, again, they blew him out. But I just feel like Kobe White, for them to make the next step that they need to make, they're really going to need him to ascend. I mean, games like this, I mean, I don't know if he's going to necessarily score 42 for you every night, but if he can give you 25, that's a start. That's a start. DeMar DeRozan showed up again as usual, Mr. Consistent, 22 points, 1 and 2 from 3, because you know he ain't taking too many opportunities from 3. You know he ain't that great of a three-point shooter. 6 rebounds, 9 assists. DeRozan showing up, doing what he usually do. Vucevic, Mr. Consistency again, 24, 12 rebounds. Again, Atlanta's just too damn small. They too damn small. I mean, you're not beating nobody when everybody now in the league, in the NBA especially, they're guards, minimum 6'3", 6'4". Your wing defenders, minimum 6'8". So that means your big men are 7 feet and up. I'm looking at Atlanta. I'm looking at Atlanta's roster here. Biggest guy they got is what, Clint Capella? I mean, that's not, like I said, that's not conducive to them winning long term. They're going to have to shake that roster up to really make some moves. They're probably going to have to get off DeJounte Murray or Trae Young, one of the two, however that works. But, yeah, it's not going to work long time. Great, but again, DeJounte Murray, I want to make sure I give him some props again, because I've kind of referenced his name throughout this. DeJounte, you have ascended, brother. And I keep giving you props because you've had these scoring outbreak games. You've had these games where it's like, okay, I could show you I could do some damage. I respect this one more because this one was for the playoffs. This was to stay in. This was to be in the tournament. 30 points, 3 of 6 from 3. So you did your job, brother. You did your job. But your teammates didn't really shoot you no bail. And ultimately, that's what cost the Hawks the game, and that's what ended their season. So Miami will be playing Chicago Friday night. As well, we will also have the Sacramento and Pelicans game Friday night. So I'll have some recap and predictions on that going into tomorrow. But all in all, just wrapping up our NBA coverage for the day. Great game for the Bulls. Even better game for the Sixers. Sixers will be playing the Knicks in the first round of the playoffs. So we will see. It'll be very interesting going into the rest of this postseason as the NBA playoffs heat up and the competition stiffens. Going forward now, we're going to get into our 32 teams in 13 days segment. And actually now we're down to about seven days now going into the draft. Draft is fast approaching. Again, very anxious and beautiful time of the year. And just want to sit back and continue to review all 32 teams and try to give you a synopsis, a picture, a window of how they're all addressing their offseason. So now we're going to pick up where we left off, and we're going to be on the New York Football Jets. Whew, boy, oh boy. You get to a point where you realize that maybe futility is just, customary for a franchise. I remember growing up an Eagles fan. One big thing that a lot of old heads used to say to me was, Philly cheap. They don't want to spend no money. You got to worry. Norman Brayman, he don't want to spend no money. He wants to spend his money on wine and cheese and limos. All that was true. And I went through hell as a child watching, Eagles football and seeing us have talent and not ascend to where we need to be because of ownership. So I completely get that. Having said that, I'm willing to bet that outside of the Johnson and Johnson, family name, Woody Johnson doesn't really know a goddamn thing about football. There's no way you could tell me that you know anything about football when your team has been inept for 11 years. You're never getting the quarterback position right. You're never getting the coaching position right. There's always micromanagement. You got a team, you got reports of the coach and the owner getting into it at, the NFL owners meetings. The report was reported by Colleen Wolfe on NFL Network. Then they had her retracted, but she didn't do a full retraction. She kind of just stated, hey, I'm reporting what I heard, dysfunction, disorganized, and just a clusterfuck of what the Jets have been. But I don't want to just bash. I want to make sure that I'm explaining to you what the issues have been outside of the obvious, which would be Zach Wilson or Woody Johnson. Head coach, Robert Saleh. I'm a fan of Robert Saleh. I like him as a coach. I don't agree with a lot of his decision making. He gloats a lot too, which again, when you've had a bad franchise and you've had it as hard as they had it, when you do win, you definitely want to, make sure your guys feel it and it's resonating with them. Having said all that, I don't really feel like he's done anything to warrant keeping his job after this season. If this team wins 7 or 8 games again, there's no reason for this man to retain his job. So, be that as it may, the person who's probably in the bigger hot seat than Robert Saleh would be Nathaniel Hackett, who did a hatchet job of a coaching job last year. The offense, for lack of better words, was fucked. I mean, to give you an idea how bad the Jets' offense was, 29th in passing. Now, remember, y'all, it's 32 teams. 29th in passing. 30th in passing yards. 22nd in rushing offense. How in the hell can you sustain when you can't do anything offensively? It just, the fact that they won 7 games is a testament to their defense, some coaching, and them getting lucky sometimes. Hell, the game where they beat Philadelphia a season ago, if Philly hits a field goal or doesn't shoot themselves in the foot in 2 red zone drives, that's another loss. Now you're talking about 6-11. But I digress. You still have to find ways to win when you have a bad quarterback, when you have inconsistent or inadequate coaching. You still have to find ways to get through it. So testament to the Jets for that. Defense obviously was the golden star on this team. If you're going to hang your hat on anything on this team, it would definitely be the defense. 12th. They were ranked 12th in the NFL, 2nd in passing yards, which is amazing, 7th in red zone efficiency. It's got to be hard when you realize, damn, I'm going out here every day and we're busting our ass to make sure that guys aren't putting 30 over us. We're not giving up 60-yard bombs here or 70-yard bombs there, but our offense can't maintain a damn drive to put us in scoring range, to give us a lead, to at least compete. It's just too much. So however they go about it, they're going to have to address that offense mightily. Having Aaron Rodgers back, obviously, it will help, but it's going to be very interesting to see. They only had 17 interceptions on the year last year, which was low. Not a great amount, but again, you got guys taking chances and your offense isn't really sustaining drives. You're pretty much daring an opposing offense to take chances against your defense. That's just being honest. And one of the last things I wanted to touch on before I go further with them is 124 penalties for 945 yards. There's no way humanly possible you are going to win football games getting penalized at that rate. This is just bad football. I could go all day about Zach Wilson sucking. I can go all day about the incompetency of Woody Johnson, but this is a team issue. This is something way bigger than just a guy here, a guy there. So 124 penalties is already bad. 945 yards is disgusting. You damn near have given up 1,000 yards throughout a season in penalties, and you wonder why you can't win or sustain drives. Having said all that, GM Joe Douglas is under pressure this year. He's going to have to get it done. Coming from Philadelphia about 6 years ago and leaving the Baltimore organization where he helped both franchises win a Super Bowl during his tenure, the pressure's on. I feel like Joe Douglas has made good acquisitions. I feel like he's done the necessary requisite things to have the talent for this team to win, especially defensively. But offensively, I mean, can we get away from just bringing in Aaron Rodgers' friends? Randall Cobb is a corpse at this point. You know, no disrespect to him. He was a great player in Green Bay. He played well. You know, he was a great special teams guy too. He's done. He's done. I mean, he's giving you 300 yards. At this point, you can find a young boy in the XFL or the United Football League, that can give you that same statistic. So, yeah, it's not working. Draft picks, they have 7 going into this draft, so that's going to be crucial. Only $1 million in cap space, i.e. they signed a bunch of veteran talent, brought on a bunch of vets. So this is do or die for the Jets. They have this year and next year, and if they don't really capitalize on it within these next 2 years, they're screwed. They're screwed. But then again, hell, they've been screwed for 11 years. So, I mean, if you've been a Jets fan longer than that, they've been screwed for about 30. So, be that as it may. A lot of things that they're going to have to work on to get this organization back in tip-top shape. Aaron Rodgers coming back will be crucial. I believe he'll play more than 4 snaps. However, I'm not sure how long this lasts to work. Because Aaron Rodgers typically, for his career, relatively healthy, within the past 7 years, definitely occurred nicks and injuries and scrapes and bumps. And it's attrition. You understand when you're playing football, a very violent, physical sport, it's going to happen. You're not going to always be at your best or be at your healthiest. That's understood. What I am a little lost about, though, is he's never played on turf consistently. Green Bay had a grass field. He played on that turf, and he tore the ACL within 4 plays, excuse me. So he's going back to that field this year. Very interested to see how they're going to protect him. They made a bunch of free agent acquisitions, a ton of them on the offensive line. Tyrod Taylor, they picked up for a backup quarterback. Picked up Morgan Moses, the tackle from the Ravens in a trade. Picked up Tyron Smith, also for free agency, former tackle for the Dallas Cowboys, former All-Pro and Pro Bowler. Also picked up re-signed kicker Greg Zuerlein. And brought in defensive lineman Javon Kinlaw, the former top pick from the 49ers. My golden move, I guess I could say for them through free agency, was getting Hassan Reddick. You know, being an Eagles fan, I can tell you, Hassan Reddick is going to get you double-digit sacks. At the minimum, he's going to get you 11 sacks. This guy is a sack machine. He can win you some games. He can definitely close some games out. So it was a huge move for them. Kind of swapped Bryce Huff for Reddick. You know, when you kind of relatively look at it, money and how everything's going to shape out. However, Philadelphia is not in the business of getting off of guys, talented guys. So it'd be very interesting to see if Reddick gets, and I expect him to. I'm not saying to you that I don't expect him to get to 11 or 12 sacks. For the draft pick, I hope that he gets to 11 or 12 sacks so Philly gets the compensation to get that second round pick. Having said that, though, I would not be shocked if he had a 7 or 9 sack season. His passing coverage leaves a lot to be desired. That's the only reason why he's not here in Philadelphia anymore. Vic Fangio prides himself on having linebackers that can cover, and, you know. But Jets, you got a good one. Hassan Reddick, like I said, he's closed some games out for us, helped us win some games. Hell, destroyed Brock Purdy's elbow in that NFC Championship game. I mean, he's a beast. He's a beast. He's a baller. So shout out to you, Hassan. I hope everything go well, bro. And do your thing so we can get that second round pick. Having said all that, can the defense sustain? You know, this team has been one of the most injury-plagued teams. I mean, you've overheard me a couple days ago or a day or two ago talking about the Chargers and the injuries they've dealt with and how they've been snake-bitten as a franchise, dealing with the litany of injuries that they've had. I'm a little worried about the Jets defense because when you have 2 strong years, of playing at the level that they've played at some point, injuries and attrition happens. It's just nature of the game. So it'd be very interesting to see if that defense can sustain again, because if they're 12th again or in the top 10 and the offense shows up, they're a playoff team. If this defense is in the top 10, top 12, and the offense is like, okay, they're going to be an 8-9 win team and they're going to miss the playoffs again. So, big, important year for the Jets. looking at it as far as the youth movement, because they're always persistently on a youth movement. So let's see on their top 30 visits who they've brought in. As far as quarterbacks, very interesting. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is 39, going on 40. Towards the tail end of his career, prolific career, Hall of Fame career. They brought in 2 quarterbacks for a visit so far. Michael Pratt from Tulane and my man's Jordan Travis from Florida State. And Michael Hires from Sanford. Interesting that you would bring all those guys in, being that you got Aaron. The only one that could potentially be a starter, in my personal opinion, out of the 3 is Jordan Travis. Jordan Travis has starting quarterback capabilities and qualities and traits to him. So obviously you have to see how he repaired from the leg injury, that brutal broken leg that he suffered late last season, which ultimately derailed my nose from getting to the national championship. Screwed over, but I digress. We'll talk on that on another day. Having said that, wide receivers, they brought in Malik Neighbors in for a visit. Troy Franklin. Keep an eye on that one. Troy Franklin. They brought in Brendan Rice, the son of Jerry Rice from USC. They brought him in for a visit. And another thing, Malachi Corley, who if you've been watching any of my episodes, you've been hearing me say that name a lot on a lot of pre-draft visits. So keep an eye on him, wide receiver from Western Kentucky. And Roman Wilson from Michigan, wide receiver. Not shocked that he's getting a look. Kind of reminds me of a poor man's Garrett Wilson, but, could be better, could be worse. Not sure. We'll see. Michigan, they're not really well known for putting out a litany of great receivers. But again, if he's making plays in Michigan, that says something. So tight end, they've only brought in Brock Bowers. Keep that in mind. Offensive line, they've had Joe Alt in for a visit. They've also had J.C. Latham in, Giovanni Manu from University of British Columbia. All 3 of them good linemen, all 3 of them guys that I feel like you could just plug in and play. So I understand that. Fatanu from Washington, they've also had brought in for a visit, and Jordan Morgan from Arizona has also come in for a visit as well. Defensive end, Chop Robertson, Marshawn Nealon, some of the names you guys have already heard. Mohamed Kamara from Colorado State, who was a sneaky good defensive end. Keep an eye on him. He was a guy they brought in for a visit. And rounding out the list, pretty much safety, Jaden Hicks from Washington State. They also brought in some corners, Evan Williams from Oregon, Max Melton from Rutgers, who was pretty good. Max Melton, shout out to Max Melton. Micah Abraham from Marshall, and Quantez Stiggers, who was actually a CFL player who is actually coming out for the draft. A lot of size, a lot of big play capability. I'm actually thinking, honestly, Quantez Stiggers is probably getting this much notoriety because, lo and behold, out of all the guys coming out in the draft, he's the only one that's got real game experience because he's played against, guys that's either semi-pro or pro. In the Canadian Football League, it's a massive league up there in Canada. Not as big as hockey, but again, big sport. So it's good to see him in the draft. Good to see that they're giving him a view. And hopefully, he lands somewhere. But that will round up my coverage for the Jets. All in all, like I said, it's going to come down to how that offense plays and how well Aaron can look. And if he's afloat and he's upright, this team will be in the playoffs and they'll be competing. It's going to be very interesting to see because in the AFC East, we expect the Patriots to be garbage. Not sure how they're really going to look, but, we're not expecting much out of them. The Jets, the Dolphins, and the Bills. How did the Dolphins respond, losing all that talent on defense, losing Vic Fangio as a coach? How do you basically interpret what type of contract is Tua getting? How is Tua going to get paid? How is that going to affect the roster? In Buffalo, obviously there's no Stephon Diggs, which again, I don't think is the end of the world, but we're going to see how good Josh Allen really is. So it's going to be a lot of interesting things going on in the NFC East. AFC East. I keep saying NFC East. My apologies. AFC East. So it's going to be very intriguing to see how the Jets approach this year, this draft, and the rest of their offseason. Leading into my next team would be the Minnesota Vikings. 7-10 Minnesota Vikings, who seemed like they might or had a chance to make the playoffs late, but things didn't really work out to where, quarterback play. Ultimately, when you suffer a major injury, Kirk Cousins obviously turned his ACL, being out for the year, them bringing in the pastronaut Josh Dobbs and bringing in Mullins and bringing in Jared Hall. It was a conveyor belt of quarterbacks at that point. Any success that was, sustained or, that came, to fruition. We were sure it wasn't going to be long lived or long term. So I don't really hold too much of this season against them. However, as we dig into it, you will see some of the things that I like to touch on that I think could potentially be issues for them down the road. They brought back Kevin O'Connell, who seems to be on every damn sports show or network. It just seems to come off as a quarterback whisperer. You just give Kevin O'Connell any guy. Right. That's why Kevin O'Connell was very specific about who he wants to be his quarterback, because he was a big fan of letting Kirk Cousins go. He wasn't. That was Casey Adolfo-Mensa, the GM. He was not a big fan of keeping Kirk Cousins. And I understand. I mean, I'm not a huge Kirk Cousins fan. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he could post some elite numbers. I don't think he's an elite quarterback. With that being said, you're not winning a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins' game being limited as it is, that's what's going to inhibit you from getting to the plateaus. I hear people all the time, well, if he had been in San Francisco, well, hell, at that point, that comes down to the head coach making plays. And we clearly see if he's playing Andy Reid in a big game, we can't trust Kyle Shanahan. And we definitely can't trust Kirk Cousins to make big plays in big games, because we've shown he chokes. So it was a lot going on for them last year. I'm not really going to beat them up too much for it. But again, it's going to be very imperative to see how they respond this year, coming off that season and having the contract issue with Justin Jefferson, which I'll also get into. Offensive coordinator Wes Phillips is returning. Defensive coordinator Brian Flores is returning, which, again, he has been tremendous. Brian Flores is one of those guys where wherever he goes, the defense gets better. I mean, whether Miami, here in Minnesota, the defense just gets better. It just gets better. He'll definitely get his head coaching opportunity. With him being a part of that lawsuit, I'm not sure things are going to work out with him in the immediate, but I definitely feel he'll get his opportunity. Having said all that, no more Kirk Cousins. So that means Sam Darnold is now the placeholder or the bridge, holder, or the bridge to the next young quarterback that they're going to draft. And I highly suspect that the Vikings are going to take a quarterback next week in the draft. I don't see them leaving the draft without one. Whether it be J.J. McCarthy, whether it be Drake May, I believe one of those guys falls to him, and that's the guy that they're going to wind up selecting. Having said all that, there's a rumor out there that they might also be interested in Michael Penix. Again, I would like that move for him too. Michael Penix is hella accurate. He's tough. He's not durable. He has had injury histories, but then again, everybody's been injured playing football, so who knows? But keep an eye on that. Michael Penix to the Vikings is a possibility. Like I said, my personal opinion, I think it's either going to be McCarthy or Drake May, but who knows? I think low-key they have to look for a receiver. Now, you're probably looking at me like, well, Ed, they just got Jordan Addison like a year or two ago. Correct. 9 and 10 yards, good year. They got Justin Jefferson. Correct. Missed 100 yards a game. I mean, all that. The question, though, is, does Kwesi Adolfo-Mensa believe, the GM of the Vikings, does Mensa believe that, one, Jefferson warrants that money, and that, two, if we give him this contract, this doesn't inhibit us from moving down later on to get other guys or to make bigger free agent acquisitions? Because I can't lie to you. I think it's on the board or on the table that Justin Jefferson possibly gets traded during the draft. I don't have anything concrete, so, take that with a grain of salt. I don't have anything concrete saying that he's definitively getting traded. I'm just paying attention to the movements of this team, and it seems like to me Justin Jefferson is a luxury that they possibly can't really afford at this moment. When you have Jordan Addison, you have TJ Hockenson. You lost KJ Osborne, but you have Addison and Hockenson. And you got guys that have been in the system for a couple years that know their roles, they'll do the job. Just keep that in mind that Justin Jefferson might be a trade piece for them to acquire the quarterback that they want or get the draft capital that they may need in this draft for the next. So we'll see. Going into free agency, a lot of departures, not too many acquisitions. Again, they were only at $16 million in cap space. Going into like I said, setting up before free agency, looking at the draft, they have about 9 draft picks, 2 in the first round, 22 in the fourth round, and 2 fifth rounds and 2 sevenths. So got a lot of ammunition to move around. As I was stating, free agency, they had a lot of departures this year. Kirk Cousins, as we know, is gone. Danielle Hunter, big loss for them. Went and signed with the Texans. Jordan Hicks, gone. Marcus Davenport, at this point, a body. He's gone. KJ Osborne's gone. Went to New England. The Pastronaut, a.k.a. Joshua Dobbs, gone. Greg Joseph gone. And Alexander Madison, I guess anybody can stand to tell you good riddance because he didn't give you a damn thing. I mean, it's funny to me how they were so, we can get rid of Dalvin Cook because we got Alexander Madison. Alexander Madison could do the job. And Alexander Madison shit the bed. And it was just a waste of time. It was a bust. I mean, I still remember the game against Philly last year. He couldn't even get 3 yards. So, be that as it may, it's going to be very interesting to see how they replace these guys. Because looking at their free agency acquisitions, Aaron Jones from the Packers. Aaron still got some juice left in the tank. But not really sure that was the best place for him to go. Who knows? Could have another 1,000-yard season. Could have a 700-800-yard season. Who knows? Andrew Van Ginkel, linebacker from the Dolphins, who went to the Vikings. Aggressive linebacker. Could play the edge. Sets the edge well. Also does special teams. Good guy that you could definitely have in your locker room that's going to help your young guys, help your roster. So kudos to Andrew Van Ginkel for getting his money. Kudos to the Vikings for seeing his talent. Shaquille Griffin, corner. Used to play for the Texans, now with them. Nice, solid pickup. Again, those 3 pickups aren't bad. It's just that when you realize Danielle Hunter, you lost a 10-sack per season guy. Kirk Cousins, you lost a 5,000-yard passer. That's production you have to replace. And it's not going to be replaced like that, you know. So it's going to be very interesting to see how all this comes about into fruition. Looking at their rankings last year, offensively, they were 22nd. I don't know whether to say that's a bad thing, because I won't lie to you, I kind of want to lean and say that's a good thing. When you've had the injuries that they had at the quarterback position, even when your backups are getting injured, where Kirk Cousins is torn the ACL and you're pretty much throwing anybody out there who looks like they can throw a football, you know, credit to you that your offense was only ranked 22nd. It should have been worse, you know, curtailing and understanding the situation. You should have incurred worse stats than 22nd, so I give them credit for that. Though, where they suffered, having to multiple backup quarterbacks and the revolving door. 28th in pass attempts, 29th in yards. Credit at the injuries, but again, you know. Penalties, 89 penalties for 670 yards. Not bad. Not bad. Guess that's something they could definitely work on, because you still don't want to give up 670 yards, but penalties are penalties. Yardage is yardage. It's going to happen. The offense was also 18th in the league on 3rd down. Got to be more efficient on 3rd down. That's one of the things that I think hurt this team, especially late in the year when they were trying to make their playoff push. When you're playing better teams, you're playing better offenses that can, you know, put 25 against you, and you have to then match. And when you can't really score like that and you're not efficient on 3rd down, I don't give a damn if it's 3rd and 1, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 20. You can't be efficient. It's a waste of time. So, that being said, they were 28th in red zone percentage, which again speaks to the backup quarterbacks, speaks to the revolving doors, speaks to the injuries. Just not great quarterback play. Obviously inconsistent due to the starter being injured. Defense, though, was ranked 13th, which I thought was very, very, very like a nice bright light for them, a nice shining example of what they can be. Shout out again to Brian Flores. The defense had 11 interceptions, though, which was very weak. Very weak. 43 sacks, 11 interceptions, not really getting it done. So the fact that they had the numbers that they had and they didn't have the great statistical output that normally you would see for a defense ranked 13th, credit to Brian Flores and his coaching. They were 26th in 3rd down percentage, not good. 32nd on 4th down. I mean, you dead last. So 3rd and 4th down were killers for them. That's one of the reasons why they ended up 7-10, couldn't get off the field. Also, and this is via NFL.com. I made sure I checked this twice to be sure. Per NFL.com, they were last in the league in pass defense. In a passing league. In a division where you have Jordan Love, Jared Goff. Now you're going to have Caleb Williams. It's not going to work, Minnesota. It's not conducive to your success. It's not going to be conducive to you winning major games. And I can tell you, playing like that will cause you to be the doormat of the NFC North. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they address the rest of these moves. Going a little bit further into their top 30 draft visits. They've had a little bit of everybody in. Because, again, they have 2 picks in the first round. So, again, I kind of understand why they're looking and taking a look at so many different draft picks. You kind of get a gauge. You want to get a gauge that you're vetting everybody. So I understand. They brought in Murphy the second, from Texas. They brought him in for a visit. Quinyon Mitchell, the cornerback from Toledo. Dallas Turner, edge rusher from Alabama. Charles Turner III, another name y'all have heard, center from LSU. Been getting a lot of looks and a lot of visits. Marshawn Nealon, that name again, Western Michigan. He's been in for a visit. Taki Tamani, he was brought in defensive tackle. He was brought in for a visit. McCallum Castles from Tennessee. Spencer Rowland from UNC, offensive tackle. McCallum Castles a tight end, just so, for y'all that didn't know, the little update. And Castles comes from Tennessee, as previously stated. Defensive tackle, Christian Boyd. Again, Quantez Stiggers came in for a visit. Name I just mentioned a while ago. Drake May's been in for a visit. Michael Penix has been in for a visit. Jaden Daniels and also Bo Nix. Out of those four names, Drake May, Penix, and Bo Nix are probably the most likely ones. As I previously stated to you, wouldn't shock me if they drafted Michael Penix. Wouldn't be out of the realm possibility if he fell that he would be the acquisition. Though I do think they might be leaning in a different direction. I personally, if I was Mensa, I would take Michael Penix. But, Having said all that, one last little bit of tidbit of news regarding the Vikings. I want to leave in your ear, leave something for you to chew on. Per the sportingnews.com, an article posted yesterday, we were told, they said, to keep an eye on a blend of teams that Mensa has been drafted from: Alabama, Iowa, LSU, Memphis, North Carolina, Northern Iowa, Ohio State, to name a few. Ironically, the players with the most visits I should say players with at least from one school that had 2 visits: Alabama, UNC, Washington. So keep an eye on that Drake May thing. But nonetheless, like I said, it's going to be very interesting. The Vikings have options. I feel they should take Penix. Seems like they're kind of hung on May and McCarthy. Don't really know, but it's going to be very interesting to see how the Vikings and Skull Nation goes going forward with their quarterback. Because they're going to need one, especially in that division. You're not beating any of those top-notch teams without one. Last but not least, we'll be touching into the Denver Broncos. The Broncos. My, oh my. What a shitstorm. I believe, and one of my tenets watching sports is, if a very rich family buys your team, know for a fact money probably is not an object to them. Know that for a fact. Having said all that, this is going to be a huge year for Sean Payton. I strongly believe if this thing fails, Payton and the GM, George Payton, will be let go. Russell Wilson experiment was a nuclear bomb. It didn't work. It was horrible. It was a shit show. He looked, credit. The first year was Nathaniel Hackett. He looked horrible. This year looked a lot better. Still wasn't good enough for them to win or be in the postseason. Having said all that, though, crucial year for Sean Payton and his organization. The Penner family, a.k.a. the Walton family, the money that I just give you guys an understanding, the money that they would need to replace Sean Payton, they make within every 60 seconds on an hour. So to replace Sean Payton financially is not a thing. It's more or less, can Sean Payton do what they deemed he could do? Because I don't think everybody remembers, they gave up draft capital as well to get this man. So going forward, defense coordinator Vance Joseph has returned under some criticism, some good praise. Late in the year, yes, the praise was warranted. The defense had kind of turned the corner and got it together, and they were playing a lot better. Having said that, the beginning of the year was hell on earth. You got 70 put on you by Miami, which, again, was something that hadn't been done in about 50 years. So that just tells you how bad of an afternoon that was of football for them. So Denver, yeah, they got their hands full, man. That defense has got holes in it, more holes than Swiss cheese. And, Sean, you the genius, man. You the genius. You have to come and fix this, because I just leave this into your ear, something for you to stew on as well. Remember how he left New Orleans. Look at New Orleans Saints' cap situation right now. Look at what they're dealing with and look at what they're trying to do to get out of it. He's been going for several years. They still haven't gotten out of it. With that being said, Denver Broncos have about 8 draft picks going into this draft. No second round pick, Sean Payton trade. 3 fifth-round picks and 2 sixth-round picks. So, be that as it may, they're in a sneaky position because they're within the top 14 picks. So, they need a quarterback. They need a running back. Definitely could use another receiver. Definitely could use another lineman. So, options aplenty for Mr. Payton, both the Paytons, Sean and George, when the draft rolls around in the next couple of days. Again, will he get it right, though? Because it just, if the team sucks, I don't know if Sean Payton makes it throughout, makes it to another year. I don't see that happening. They need more explosive playmakers. They did not have the explosion they needed. And I know people want to say, well, Russell Wilson didn't throw the damn ball right. Russell Wilson was horrible. He was kissing babies and trying to get presidential votes and all that. Yeah, I think Russ corny too, y'all. I think Russ corny as fuck at times. I think he's cliched. I think he's a little more manicured and a little more buttoned up than, some of the quarterbacks that we see or we're accustomed to. But having said all that, I felt like Sean Payton dogged him and didn't really like him. And I felt like Sean Payton really didn't want him there. And he was just trying to make, chicken soup out of chicken shit. So, be that as it may, the offense was ranked 19th last year. Not getting it done. 21 points a game. I mean, a young offensive coordinator can scheme 21 points now, so that should be an indictment on how bad the team was offensively. 24th in passing yards, 18th in rushing yards, not getting it done. 21st on third down, consistently explaining why this offense didn't do anything. And last but not least, on fourth down, they were 22nd in red zone efficiency, which, again, all these things that I'm explaining are showing you why the Broncos had the problems that they had last year. And remember, Sean Payton's calling card is offense. Sean Payton's calling card, I will repeat, is offense. So the fact that the offense looked that bad the first year, well, I know a lot of you will probably say, but hey, damn, it's year 2. Damn, let's see how he look. Come on, bro. You can't be like that. You're right. I'm gonna give him credence. I'm gonna give him a fair shake. We'll see how he do. But I'm gonna tell you now, depending on who that quarterback is, that defense better be better. Because if that defense isn't better, I can guarantee you Sean Payton will be sitting next to either Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharp, somebody on NFL Network. He won't be coaching anymore if he continues at the rate that he's at. So, having said that, they got to upgrade the offensive line, the defensive line, wide receiver and safety. I know they picked up Brandon Jones, safety from Miami, but he's no Justin Simmons, and hell, who really is? And ultimately, they're going to have to replace that. Something very sneakily, I think, that doesn't get discussed a lot, that I want to touch bases on real quickly here in this episode. I just reiterated that George Payton, the general manager, is under pressure because obviously, things didn't work out with Russ, and that was on his dime. He helped write the check and give the okay for that. With that being said, a lot of his players have been released or traded. So essentially, he's going to help bring these guys in, but these are essentially the Sean Payton draft. This is the guys that Sean Payton really wants. Because, again, I reiterate, if things don't work out the way they need to, I don't see either one of them lasting. But for Sean Payton, this is a crucial year. He has to nail this draft. Because, not to be funny, but even if he gets fired, a lot of people will come away a year, 2, 3, 5 down the line. If this team is successful, no one will give Sean Payton the full credit as if, oh, he was the only one that brought this team out of, the depths of hell. No, it'll be known that, no, there were moves made outside of what he was doing to help set the team up. So, be that as it may, the salary cap, $17 million. They were in salary cap hell for a good portion of the offseason. They've kind of rectified it. Like I said, you can view their numbers on overthecap.com. They're supposed to have more money going into next year. It's weird because, again, I don't know who is and who isn't going to be on this roster going into the next season. So having that cap space is great, but who are you grabbing? And is Sean Payton even still going to be there? Is the general manager still going to be? Yeah, you get it. Looking at their free agent acquisitions and departures, and I guess we'll start with the departures first because they're the most notable. Starting first is Russell Wilson. I mean, I don't know what Russ is going to do in Pittsburgh. I don't. I have a sneaky suspicion Russ is probably not going to make it throughout the season playing in Pittsburgh. Having said that, he might not make it throughout the season with Justin Fields behind him. So this is going to be crucial for Russell. So I kind of understand why the Broncos made the move, the cap space, needing to make moves, needing to acquire more talent. I get it. Justin Simmons, and I'm crossing my fingers that he just buckles and says, I'll take a one-year deal with the Eagles for nothing. But whether he goes to Philadelphia, Green Bay, New England, Washington, any of the teams that he's been speculated to go to, wherever he goes, he's going to be a great addition. You know, I know he's like 30, 31 years old, but the dude's a playmaker. You know, he gets interceptions, he makes plays, he's a short tackler. He's giving Patrick Mahomes hell every time he's played him. You know, so he's a winner in my book. Chris Manahert's tight end also had been let go. Lloyd Cushenberry III, as I stated previously in a following episode, he had been released. K'Wan Williams was re-signed. Oh, he left, excuse me. Josie Jewell left, and also Jonathan Harris has departed. Interesting enough. Now, you remember I said that going into the offseason, they didn't really have that much cap space. They were kind of trying to make do with what they got. So this is the Sean Payton, George Payton free agency acquisitions I want you to listen to. Number one, Josh Reynolds. And yes, that's the same Josh Reynolds that was still dropping footballs in San Francisco as we speak from that NFC Championship game. That Josh Reynolds. Little Jordan Humphrey. Matt Pert. Cody Barton, linebacker from Washington. Will Lutz, kicker. Obviously, one of his former guys used to play with him in New Orleans, or he coached in New Orleans. Adam Troutman. Michael Burton, fullback. Defensive tackle Michael Roach, and I explained to you a little bit ago that they signed Brandon Jones to a 3-year deal from Miami. None of these moves inspire hope. And I don't know what the thought process was. I get it. We got this big cap number from Russell Wilson that we're going to have to eat. His mindset was, let's try to eat it all this year, and then next year we start with a clean slate. Me knowing that my job is probably not guaranteed, I'm not that confident to say, well, let me just take the brunt this year, all of it, and then next year we'll come fully and fresh. You may not be here. So I don't really understand the thought process in that move. The free agent acquisitions leave a lot to be desired. They're going to have to use the draft to attack and address a lot of these positions because, again, a lot to be desired there. Which leads me into, finally, my top 30 visits for the Denver Broncos. I'm just going to round this up because it was a lot of typing and writing last night, and it was hilarious when I actually paid attention to realize that they brought in all of the top 15 prospects in this draft. Every last one of them has been to their facility, whether it's Jalen Hunt, whether it's Jared Verse, DeCameron Richardson, Michael Penix Jr., Quantez Stiggers, you've heard that name all day, Luke McCaffrey, the son of Ed McCaffrey, brother to Christian McCaffrey, Ray Davis, running back from Kentucky, Latu Latu, edge rusher from UCLA, Malachi Corley, wide receiver, Western Kentucky, heard that name again. And out of all these visits, keynote, 6 defensive backs brought in for a visit, 7 running backs brought in for a visit, only 1 wide receiver. So he's definitely looking at wideout. And yeah, it just seems like to me, they got to get a quarterback. And I think that's obviously, the most obvious thing for them. But I think Bo Nix might be the best fit for him. Ran the up-tempo offense in college. Also did a little bit of it at Auburn. Ran it. He could run Sean Payton's system seamlessly. He's no Drew Brees, but again, I think the kid can be serviceable in Sean Payton's offense with talent around him. Not the roster of free agent acquisitions I just read off to you. I'm saying, more, good young talent around this kid, then he could possibly excel. It's going to be interesting. Like I said, I'm not sure how, when, or why, but Denver Broncos, you damn sure got your hands full trying to get prepped for next season. And that will be it for today's episode, guys. I want to thank you so much for tuning in and listening. And again, like, sharing, and subscribing. If you haven't done already, I thank you so much for doing so. Tomorrow's episode, we're going to touch on preparation for the play-in tournament games. Also, get our outline set up for the beginning of round 1 of the NBA playoffs. This weekend, Saturday, I'll be going over some loose articles, touch up on some things based on that. And I ultimately just want to say again, thank you so much, guys, for the love, support, and for just sitting back and taking time out of your day to hear me. I want to say again for the last time, thank you. Have a great day. Be blessed.